Welcome to my channel, Custom Scrapbook Design by Christy Stubbs. Today I'm sharing with you my latest card kit. So every month I offer a card class, and I do offer it in person in my studio, and then I also offer it online via Zoom. So the Zoom class, we get together and anybody who has purchased the class joins in and we make the cards together. It's a fun way to put the cards together and have some interaction with the other participants in the class. So the last few classes that I've done, I've actually used the class that Simple Stories puts on for the retailers to use. And this month I decided I wanted to design the card class or the cards myself. So this month I am using Simple Stories Simple Vintage Flower Shop collection. This is such a gorgeous collection of florals and butterflies, and I just fell in love with it. So I really wanted to use it for a project. So I'm not going to be sharing the measurements of anything with you guys on here. That is kept solely for the card class, but you guys can loosely follow along if you want to. So just a little tip, my base paper that goes on my card, I do measure my card base, whatever your card base is, subtract 1/8 of an inch, and that's what your patterned paper is going to be. Like my yellow one there on the card is 1/8 of an inch smaller all the way around. So here I've got I didn't actually use the floral piece, I used the B side, that beautiful yellow, and then I hand tore a piece to go on the edge there, and then I'm just using the ephemera pieces from the collection as well. And I did end up putting that little stool up on some foam, as well as the butterflies, just to add a little dimension to your card. Now, keep in mind, if you're going to mail these cards, you probably want to pay the extra postage that the post office requires for these so that they actually don't go through the machine. And then that way they will stay intact when you mail them. So I'm basically just putting everything up on foam. My butterflies, I like to really bend and manipulate the wings so they look a little bit more like they are taking flight. They do easily manipulate. I fold it up on both sides of the body basically and just kind of curve those wings. So I added a few of the hearts to that one as well. And next up, I am trimming my base page again. Now this one I used the 6x8 paper pad for this particular kit. And I fell in love with this camera that was on that bingo piece and wanted to try and figure out how to incorporate that into a card. I sometimes have a bit of a challenge designing cards when there is a ton of background or ton of when it's real busy, I guess. So this one was a little more challenging for me, but I do really like the way that it ended up. It didn't require a whole lot of extra work. It was pretty easy to put together. So I did just use some foam tape on my sentiments that I put on there. And again, my butterfly, I really kind of bend those wings and get those lifted up and give them a little bit of dimension. Put my words, and these are from the sentiment pack, up with some foam tape. On to the next one. So this next card, I think, turned out to be one of my favorites. I absolutely loved some of the ephemera pieces that were in the ephemera pack. So this card kit uses the 6x8 paper pad, the sentiments ephemera pack, and then the bits and pieces ephemera pack from this collection. And then I also added some enamel dots to it at the end. And because I was finding so many of the pattern papers more challenging, I ended up using um, more of like a simpler base for this one. And I didn't have enough of that yellow to go all the way across, But you can piece that together because you're going to use a piece of ephemera to go over the top of the middle. So you would just piece that together behind the ephemera piece. I did add some lace to this one. Now, in hindsight, I would actually add that lace to the brown piece before hooking it down, because I did have to kind of just tuck under there to trim off that excess lace. And then I also added some seam binding from my shop, and all of these pieces are included in your card kit when you take the class from me. You get all of the lace, all of the seam binding, you do get some foam tape. The only thing you really need to have is a pair of scissors and some adhesive of some sort, whether you use a wet adhesive or some double-sided tape or something along those lines. So I love the way that this one turned out. That floral basket is absolutely beautiful. And I did put it up on foam tape, and then I am putting the sentiment up on foam tape as well. One of the other things that you don't see in this video of the card making is you can actually add some of your extra pieces to the inside of your card if you want to as well. And that would be something I would recommend doing after everything is all put together. I did lose some of my video while taping some of this, so a few of the steps may have gotten missed, but the brown floral was actually cut 1/4 of an inch smaller than the base of the card itself. And then I did tear it midway through. And then I did use foam tape again on that camera ephemera piece. And then again on another butterfly. In case you couldn't tell, I absolutely adore these butterflies in this collection. And I did end up using almost all of them on this card set. So the little thank you and greeting I did put up on ephemera as well, and then added a few enamel dots to the end of the card. So I decided to use the torn piece again, the other half of that, on another card. But first I skipped to this card using the 3x4 cut apart. I believe I cut it down ever so slightly, and then I used a piece of pink that is actually from the Life in Bloom collection to mat that cut apart on. And so this card is just real basic, real easy, a lot of layering of the different patterned cardstock pieces. And I did raise that sentiment up on some foam tape as well. And I do use quite a bit of it when I put a 3x4 down, just because I don't want like that center to cave in on it. And then I've got some really beautiful kind of rose gold colored twine that I added to that card as well. And here's where I decided to use that other torn piece. And I do like to ink all of my cardstock. I think it just adds some real definition to your card and just that extra little detail to everything. So, and on my torn pieces too, I did have the torn side down on that piece. I am using foam tape again to lift the ephemera pieces. That chair with that bucket of florals is absolutely gorgeous. Again, like I said, I am in love with this collection, and I did have a hard time designing the cards. I'm not going to lie, that for some reason I had a bit of a struggle doing them, but when I got all done, I absolutely love all of them. I think they turned out beautiful. There's lots of different ways you can go with this particular collection. Those sentiments really help out a lot. And then of course the Bits and Pieces ephemera pack also had a lot of sentiments in it as well. So I do end up having a lot of them left over. You could probably almost design a whole nother card kit if you wanted to. However, I do have a bonus project that you're going to want to watch for that I used a lot of those sentiments for later on. I loved the butterfly paper. Again, I told you I just adore butterflies. So I wanted to use that pattern paper for a card for sure. But you really have to kind of offset that with something solid to make anything show up on it. Like none of the greetings were showing up without a solid color behind it. So I used some more of that pink and popped the word up on that, and I felt like that helped it show up a whole lot nicer. I do end up using quite a bit of this pink as a background for them, and I feel like once I decided to do that, some of the designing got a whole lot easier. And then when inking those sentiments, to just back to the inking, I don't worry about getting every little bit inked. You can just kind of highlight the edges. As you can see, it does really add to the overall look of the card. However, if you decide not to ink or don't have the ink and don't want to purchase that to just do a simple card kit, it's really not necessary. This card ended up being pretty simple, but I feel like the butterflies in the background paper really kind of just did all of the work for you. That's the nice thing with some of this pattern paper. A lot of the work is kind of done for you. Now I'm just going back and adding some enamel dots to all of the cards. I kind of like to wait until the end to do that, just because I'm not real sure where you want to add them, and it just adds that last little detail to finish up your cards. So again, I will link my card kit down below for you guys. I am going to be postponing or changing the date of the Zoom, so watch for that as well. And as always, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend a little time watching my videos. And if you haven't subscribed already, I would love it if you would. Hit that bell so you get notified when I upload new content. Leave a comment, tell me what you think of my cards, and watch for the bonus class coming as well. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.